Would you share with everyone what your love life was like before we worked together?
Yeah, and I think I joined your thing during COVID, but it wasn't because of COVID that I
Right.
joined. Yeah, no, I just had been bouncing around single for a long time. Occasionally, I would meet someone who I thought I really liked, and that person just didn't reciprocate pretty much the way they should have, or the way, and so I was sort of, I think, I'm a very alpha person, so I was probably going after the person that I thought I needed.
Right.
But that person wasn't probably the right person in terms of the right type. So maybe they were almost competitive with me and not complimentary. And, that whole idea about your emotional statement, your empowering statement, and how they make you feel, versus what you think you want. So it was sort of just tough because, and I would also, I felt like meet people who were not leaning in and not committed. And, I'd be on dating apps and the idea that you would actually put out there what you want. Oh my gosh, I never probably did that because you're always like, well, you don't want them to think you're desperate. But I learned some things from Barry's course about that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So what had you ultimately um, make the decision that I do want to help? Like yeah.
Yeah, I guess because I saw your something about you have the first call, and I thought, yeah, that was interesting. I saw the ad on Facebook, but I remember thinking, well, this is interesting because we sort of had the first call. I knew I was doing it wrong. I'd had a really tough relationship with someone who actually kind of ripped me off, defrauded me.
Oh,
And that was quite damaging. That happened about 2 years before. And yeah, I just felt like I was in this rut, to be honest. And I was like, wow, I need to do something about this. And maybe I need to study. Maybe there's a course. I didn't think therapy. Oh, I will say one thing. I didn't think for me, therapy was the answer. I
right.
needed something practical. So,
Right. Well, as a high achiever and as a woman in corporate and now developing your own startup, you were used to structure, right? Goals, steps, right?
used to that. Yeah. And I also thought therapy, you go and you talk. But for me, that didn't work. I wanted somebody to give me advice and say, well, this is, and so like this practical step by step process, which is how you mapped it out. I thought that was really cool because it was actually just really practical and almost funny in a way that it was so practical, if that makes sense. Almost
Right.
hilarious. Like, how do you make your love life so practical? But it kind of worked, I think.
Right. Right. And so now you have this plan. And what were some of the ahas that you noticed? Were there like surprises maybe about yourself, about the past? You don't have to go into like the gory details, but
Mhm.
like some of
Well,
the yeah.
I think things like the empowering statement I thought was very interesting. And I think the aha moment came when I was doing, is it dating boot camp? I think it's called. And I had my spreadsheet and I had all the people on there and I was doing my first meetings and my second meetings. And I actually had somewhere that this is the aha moment when I met my husband because I was on he didn't even make it on the spreadsheet actually because I was doing the dating apps and everything, and there was two people. He's in the other room, so I hope he doesn't hear this. There were two people in particular. There was him and this other guy, and he was kind of just hanging around the background because he was just. I wasn't really considering I was dating him, or I wasn't sure. He was very different to me, but I noticed that I wanted to at the end of. I went on a kiteboarding like a training thing for 3 days, an intense one. And I felt like at the end of the day, I actually more wanted to call my husband than the guy I was supposedly dating. And I'm like, well, that's weird. Why am I trying to do that? And I'm like, well, that's the empowering statement kicking in because he makes me feel better than the other guy. And that was a really big aha moment about the empowering statement. I think that's really important. You should listen to it.
Yeah.
The vision boarding I thought was really good. The dating camp. And the other bit for me was the put it out there and put exactly what you're looking for. Holy crap, that was like enlightening. Like, you're absolutely right. Put it out there. I don't want the time wasters. And
Right.
yet we're shamed into thinking we shouldn't ask for what we want. So I think that was wonderful. I think that was great. And I sort of still try to advise my friends to do that now, who most of them have given up on honestly that dating, those dating apps, but which is a shame.
Not everyone is like you and like the people here who are like, if it's not working, I'm gonna get some support because it's ultimately
Mm,
a lot of people do already put it out there, but they're
mm,
putting it out there on the wrong vibration and then attracting still the same wrong people, right? And then saying there's no one out there,
Well, you
right?
can't be saying there's no one out there. That's not the answer. But you can never say that because that's just the wrong, as you say, energy. Yeah.
Exactly.
And the other thing I found was that meeting all the other women in the group was like, I'm not the only one. This is all happening to other people too. Or this is a process. But I was single for a long time and I feel like I had high standards. And even now that I'm with my husband, I'll like I'm fundraising and I'm looking up for my startup and I'm looking up all these people I've met and I know I'm like, oh, yeah, that person I might have thought, but no, I wouldn't. That guy's got huge. And I went to an event in November for Christmas and I went to this thing and I met all these guys who, I never dated really any of them, but like they were just all hanging around. And to me, they were just totally the wrong guys for me. But I might have even thought of them as an options later. And I'm like, I realized why, now that I'm with my husband, why they were wrong for me.
Exactly. And that's where it's like a blind spot. We don't even know what we don't even know. So I hear this all the time from grads or people in the program, like, ew, they were no good for me. And that's all tied, remember, to the past and our self-worth and all of that. So beautiful. So, tell us a little bit more about you were thinking about Andrew, like, oh, he wasn't necessarily, but you had a new empowering statement. So, what did you discover about why he's good for you and how
I
it
think
makes
he,
you feel? Yeah.
I think he compliments me. He's like my biggest fan. And then that's the first thing. I'm very like self-indulgent. Um, I'm very much the leader in what I do, probably. And that's what's going to make me successful as a CEO of my startup, I think, because I've got a very clear vision on what I want. And I'm very, especially creatively. But yeah, no, I think it was back to that day. It was just sort of like it just gelled. We just kind of connected, and he just was very friendly and warm, and actually very loving and helpful and sweet and human, and
Human.
not holding barriers up. That was the thing. He wasn't holding any barriers up. He definitely wasn't playing any games. It could have been because he'd been married for so long, he didn't know how. But no, actually, he told me later on that no, there'd been women he'd been dating. He'd been single for a couple of years. And no, he honestly, I mean, he'd probably been acting like some of those guys to me, to other
Yeah.
women. I don't think so, but I really don't think he did. But I do think there's this whole thing about, okay, oil and water, right?
That's
Don't mix.
and
So,
unconsciously we attract people because we don't even really know what we need necessarily, right? We attract
mm,
people who make us feel kind of the way we felt in the past, in childhood, right? So, but we kind of still draw that in and don't know why. So, Andrew, when you're with him, like, how do you feel with him versus other people you dated?
I just think comfortable, and like we have a lot of fun, and we were watching some TV show last night that was so silly, it was so funny. And yeah, just comfortable, and like I can say, do you want to do this? And he'll like, hell yeah. And but other guys would be like, well, I've got this on and that, and like they want to be the one leading. And he's not like that. He'd be like, I mean, I'm sure there's limits, but like if I suggest we do something, he's always in for it. He's always down for it. And I think
Mm.
that's really because I'm a real doer and go getter, and like, and I think, yeah, so that's sort of important because I have dated other people where they'd almost like it's like a power thing. And they
Yeah.
probably try to exert power over me, like, well, no, I've got, this on, or I don't know. And it's sort of weird because I'm just wanted to enjoy my life with someone and spend time with them. The other thing is he really loves spending time with me. So actually having someone that wants to spend time with you, it's kind of ironic. But I have dated men who really don't. Like they were, and obviously that means that they're unavailable, to me.
Exactly. Exactly. And there's a whole dynamic about why we do that. But for this conversation, it sounds to me like you're feeling chosen and you're feeling loved, right? You're feeling deeply connected and seen and safe and comfortable, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
I love that. So now your life is totally different. So what are you most excited now about your relationship with him and what you're building together?
I think the other thing that like being with Drew, and I wish, we'd met years before, and is that like I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I didn't have Drew. It sounds funny, but having the support of someone someone really important who is there for you, because I took a leap of faith to do this startup thing I'm doing. And it was very encouraging to have someone encourage me.
You
Yeah.
bring up such a good point. My husband is the same way. You could be a power woman in corporate, you could be, but at the end of the day, we all want to feel supported. We all want to
Mm,
feel encouraged. Who wants to do this alone? Do life
yeah.
alone, right? My
Yeah.
husband was such a cheerleader, right?
And
Yeah.
also, he had this way with my second cat. I'm a cat lady. That's what they call a single woman, as a cat lady. But I have two of them, which I accidentally fostered. And there was one that no one could get near. My father, no one, like, he didn't like my roommate of 3 years. He just wouldn't go near him. And I had to go away for 5 days up to Alaska. And he sent me a picture of this one cat, totally on his back and with him tickling his stomach. And I said, "What? How did you break in notches? How did you do that?" And you know what his answer was? He goes, "Oh, I just watched how you pat him and you handle him, and I just did the same thing." And I thought that was very intuitive and astute, because that was a very sort of, he's wired differently. Like, he watched the behavior of, and honestly, that cat loves him now. It's so funny because now that cat is more, and this cat's like 8 years old now, but back at the time he was 6 years old, and he was a very timid. And now that cat is friendly to other people more and more and more. So he's really come out of his shell. And it's because of Drew. He loves Drew. He loves me more, obviously, but Drew's a good second best.
That is so funny. And
It's not the same as him liking your kids, but it's because I don't have kids, but yeah.
but animals are very good judges of character too,
They are.
right? They know. So you're speaking of, and I can relate to this. We have, four pit bulls and, the whole thing. When I met my husband, I too was a dog and a cat lady, right? So it speaks to sharing values, someone leaning into you, and it's your family. It's still your family, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. They are my family. Yeah. And that's why I was so impressed. I was
It
very
is.
impressed.
And in a conscious relationship, it only gets better because you're there for each other. He really sees you. It keeps growing, keeps growing. It
Mhm.
only deepens. So here, we're on a in a workshop about creating results in love and finding your soulmate. We're opening our eyes to having a plan. So what would you tell all the people who are watching this about, investing in mentorship and a plan? What would you want
Yeah.
them?
Yeah. I have a plan, because I really met Drew. Was it 6 months after I did the dating camp? Remember, I dated the wrong person. I dated with someone that was wrong. And I did. And I was actually quite heartbroken because he said things that he didn't do things. And I had a conversation with Bari, and she's like, "No,
Get
he's not
rid
the
of
one."
them.
And ironically, I met Drew because of an action I'd taken to keep that relationship together. So it was a bit of fate. So I do think sometimes believe in the path, and follow the path and follow the cause, and make the hard decisions and realize the hard realizations that are real. Like, that other guy was not the right guy. And ironically, they were from the same very small town in Colorado. That's what's really kind of weird, but didn't know each other. But isn't that weird? Very small town in Colorado. And then Drew came along. So I just say, stick with the program, keep going. And it's the same for me with doing my startup, right? You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. And every date's a chance to meet and learn something from someone. So I always think dates, and stick with that whole program of dating boot camp, because I think eventually, and the other last thing I'd say is, like, the person you might end up with may not end up making it on the spreadsheet. He is not on the spreadsheet.
And right, exactly, because we're operating now from reality, reason, but also intuition and divine providence, right? So because Andrew was at that ski house and
Right.
he was always there, he was showing
Well,
up.
apparently he was intentionally always there when I was there. He was always turning up when I was there. That's why he was always there. He was always there when I was there.
because he was claiming you.
Yeah, he was.
He
Yeah.
was claiming you. And that's like what your king ultimately really does. And you can't stop it because it's so good. But we don't know that. It's not the familiar. We're used to the adrenaline and the chase and the trauma
Yeah.
and the drama. So we have to clear that so that you can let good love in. Or people say, well, I don't know, I never met the right one, but you may have and didn't recognize.
Yeah, I wonder, like I look back, there were men in my life where I thought, God, why didn't that one work out? Or why didn't this guy work out? Like, I think he liked me. Maybe I could have liked him back, but maybe I didn't at the time. And I don't, I look back at some of those people and men, and I'm like, they probably obviously just weren't thinking about me the same way. Two
Right.
people have to think about each other exactly the same way at the right time and have the
Ex-
right circumstances. So I do think if Drew was married with his kids, or even if he was divorced with his young kids, I don't think it would have worked out. I don't know.
no.
I think it would have been very hard because the kids get in the way big time. He has three kids, but they're grown up. And even
It's
they get in the way sometimes, but
right.
no,
It's all divine timing. So you're a
it
business,
is.
you're developing a startup. Um, Hailey's developing a startup for ski houses that's like Airbnb called
But
Bubbles.
it's not just ski houses, it's any event or vacation or experience or even a masterclass. It's called Bubble, and it's for people to have these shared experiences in groups together. And it's based around like probably sharing a house or sharing some accommodation. And
We're gonna
so that yeah, I think the week of love, we're going to set up a bubble for Barry. But the cool thing is that I met Drew in a bubble. I mean, every startup has a founder story, and my founder story was that I was running ski houses for 8 years. I hosted over 200 people, but I met Drew in a summer bubble, a summer house that I joined someone else's bubble. That was what was funny about it. I wasn't having to be the organizer, so I hadn't met him because he applied. I met him just in the kitchen, and that's a true founder story, and many people have met in my bubble. So it's a good way to meet people. Join a bubble.
And so as a founder, you understand like investing in yourself. So when you look at a
Hmm.
clear path to true healthy love, it had pretty good ROI, huh?
It did. It did. And the vision board, I showed Drew the vision board. We did a vision board for our patio remodel recently too. I'm like the vision boarding process, we created that vision board, and they're still here sitting in my bedroom right to the right here. I've still got them. So we got married, I'll call it a city hall wedding because I
Yes.
want to be an entrepreneur, and Drew enabled me to do that. But also, we're going to get married in Australia in a bigger ceremony when we can get, when my start off takes off a little bit. Yeah.
Right. Right.
In
So
a proper
that's,
wedding with my family. Yeah.
and I bet they love him.
They do. Yeah. They do.
Yeah, I'm sure. He's so sweet. We'll share
Yeah.
pictures of Hailey and Drew, your beautiful wedding picture.
Yeah. The
Yes,
wedding was great. We shipped that in 2 weeks. Planned it and did it in 2 weeks.
my husband and I did something like that in Israel. It got planned in
Uh,
like 2 weeks
I know.
also.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. We don't need the hoopla. We need the love. We just need
Yep.
the person and the connection. And that's really it. That's what we
Mm.
need. Ah, right. So I think that's the message that it's really spiritual. And a lot of what we don't even realize that's having us choose the wrong people. Like this is not just about this is not vision boarding. That happens way, way later. It's the foundational work that has us understand, like what I was saying earlier about our value, clearing the blind spots. That's what gives us the clarity to then go into dating camp. And we're
Mm.
so happy for you, Hailey and Andrew. It's really such a sweet story. So thank you
Thanks,
for sharing
Barry.
with us. And we're excited to do Bubble with you in 2025. Neat experience. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, good luck with all of that. And thank you so much. And we'll keep track of you guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone, and all the best, and good luck, and keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
I really,
perfect.
I really, I really, I really want more of my friends to do this course. Because I think there's a lot of value, not just the dating side, but the whole life side, like I was saying. And that's kind of, I do give credit to Barry's course for helping me get the courage to go and do my startup, as well as, all the other stuff. So that was a bigger picture thing. So good luck,
Right.
everyone.
The ROI of investing, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. All right, Hailey, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Bye-bye.
bye.